Now introduce our presenters. Today we have Chuck Roscoe, the VP of Operations here at Cybra, and also Sheldon Reich, Chief Solutions Architect at Cybra. So Chuck, Sheldon, if you guys are ready, I'll pass it over to you.
Yes, we're ready to go. To bring us to that cover slide. Okay. Well, I'd like to start off with a story that's actually close to 20 years old. Now, Chuck and I have been with the firm more than 25 years, correct, Chuck?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is back in the 90s, we had a customer who was, you may remember them, they're Herman Shoes. Herman Survivors was the name of the product. They had a headquarters was in New York, and they had a factory in Poland. And what they would do, they had monarch printers, monarch label printers, and what they would do was print the shoebox labels and their shipping labels in Armonk, and then they Federal Express the packages of labels to the factory to be applied to the shoes. Well, it doesn't take long to figure out that would become extremely expensive. So at that time, we came up with an ability for them to print the label data to disk, and then we'd email the label file. The customer would email the label file to the factory in Poland, and then they would copy it to the printer port. But as you can imagine, unless they had the exact amount of labels loaded in the printer, you know, if on the 3 to go, they still have to be able to send the whole thing again. There was no interactivity. Well, the COVID, Corona crisis hits us, and sure enough, we're approached by customers with the same requirement. Only now we have a much more powerful tool to be able to solve the issue, and that is the ability to take any of our output, whether it's a label, whether it's a form, whether it's ZPL, SATO, any of those drivers, we can turn the document, the format, into a PDF. It can be emailed, sent to a factory in Poland or whatever, and ready to do it right from the go. So if those of you who may recall, at the beginning in March, when the lockdowns first began, we made an offer to our customers to say, hey, we have this tool, this PDF email fax add-on option to MarkMagic, and that's really going to be able to help you for all your employees that are working from home. And sure enough, the phone started ringing, and we got a number of requests. One of them is a straightforward one. Joseph Spiewak is a manufacturer of uniforms, police uniforms, fire uniforms, etc. Public sector. And they have a factory in Mississippi. And all of a sudden, now even though it was an essential business, but that's because the factory switched to making PPE, and they were able to keep the factory rolling, but the office workers were at home, and they needed a way to review invoices, statements, and some of those reports that were being generated by the system without having them printed out right in front of them. And Chuck and his team hooked up with the Spiewak technical folks, and in a short time, they were able to, even based on the job and based on the login, wherever the person was logging in, it would be able to look up where the email address was and send the output that customer service rep was responsible for to their home email, and they were able to review. It was really boom, 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 1, 2, 3. Another customer called us. What was their requirement? Similar to our the Herman Survivor Shoe Company, and they had they were needing to drop ship, but their particular requirement was they would print the labels in advance and again ship them to all these factories around the world, and it doesn't take it's really not rocket science.
Tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
really tens of thousands of dollars in shipping printed paper to remote locations. So what we did was we worked with them to enable the labels that they need to create as PDFs that are emailed to the factories, and then depending on the job that they're working on, the particular product that needs to be sent, the factory can pick the individual PDF and send it to their label printer local in the factory, and it's a beautiful implementation. By the way, that's one of the handouts. It's the bottom one, the Redmond case study. That's Redmond is a manufacturer or a purveyor of mattresses, and this was all about how we were able to do it for them. So this tool is really powerful. It starts any MarkMagic output, whether it's labels or forms, on either the AS400 version of MarkMagic or the platform independent version of MarkMagic, which runs on Windows, Linux, cloud, etc. So and it works back and forth. So you have no limitations whatsoever, and it's a really powerful tool. Chuck, do you have anything to add on the PDF capabilities?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. And we're going to talk more about PDF, actually, if we jump to the next slide. So all the different options within MarkMagic, PDF is part of it. So as Sheldon mentioned, like we have over 450 different print drivers in MarkMagic. You guys maybe have been using MarkMagic for 10, 15 years. And you could, at the flick of a switch, say, you know what, instead of printing this label over here, I want to PDF it and email it, or print it and email it as a PDF file. So and we have printing challenge, as you see here. And just as an FYI, we have 6 of these that we thought up. And if you guys, as we go through our slideshow, which will be pretty short, if you have some other ideas, the audience, by all means, as Phil mentioned, please type them into the questions box. Other challenges that perhaps we haven't thought of. I mean, I'm sure we haven't thought of everything. Another one here is e-commerce or collate forms, or like drop shipping type forms. As an example, you've probably seen things like this over the years. Like if you order anything online, right? You got all this good stuff, right? We see these forms, like here's Home Depot. And a lot of times on the bottom here is a shipping label, right? And that's what a lot of folks call a collate or an e-commerce form. So what a form weaver option allows you to do within MarkMagic is you can take these 3 components here on the left and create one larger form on the right. So this is somewhat specialized in that those 3 components you see there are actually individual MarkMagic formats, right? So you can have, in this example, we have a customs form on the top, but you may want it to be a packing list. Maybe you want it to be an invoice. Maybe you want a different logo up there because you're shipping from another company, one of your other companies, from online. The shipping label could be different. So the point here is that you could have like multiple different pieces, individual formats that you want that MarkMagic Form Weaver can combine at print time. So instead of you trying to make all these combinations of different things, like a ground shipping label in the middle and a packing list on the top and some advertising at the bottom, you could just go ahead and make those individually in a print time. Form Weaver, just tell Form Weaver which ones you want us to add to that document, and we build it for you. We rotate things around and offset it and all that. And of course, like we've all seen here, we've seen these things getting printed and sent to our house, but nowadays, you may want to PDF them, right? So, or in addition to printing, you can PDF these forms. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And on the next slide is more of an extreme example of Form Weaver. And this is an actual customer. They've been using it for a long time, Club Monaco, where they gave us this. So they actually use 7 different components, 7 different areas of the form where they have various MarkMagic formats being added at print time. And they print these and they also PDF and email these. So it's another nice feature. And that's also part of the handouts is the Form Weaver add-on option that you can click on and grab. And of course, all this is available on our website as well.
So I just want to make sure you're clear on this. And that is that you actually, each of these elements that are in this Club Monaco form are separate formats. And then they're just plugged in at print time. And
exactly.
Yeah, to give you an idea of the kind of time and cost savings this is. And that is that our customers have told us that to hard code a collate form like this, they've been quoted, for services close to $18,000 to $20,000. This is a tremendous amount of work, especially to be able to have them to be able to support different carriers, right? Because obviously the carrier requests a service, so the shipping label is going to change. And once you start putting in all the variables, it becomes quite a challenge. Or Formweaver makes it so easy that actually a non-programmer can set up the rules and the processes that determine which piece goes where, which piece goes there, and how that. If you have a marketing message, for example, you may want to add the marketing message only for the holidays and the holiday message. All that stuff can be handled in the Formweaver. Next slide, Phil. Now, this is related, and that is that we heard from our customers that because of what's going on now, that obviously much, e-commerce is going through the roof. People are ordering things online, and if you're primarily shipping pallets and cartons of product to your retail customers, that's how they've done it in the past, and it's, obviously, the malls are reopening, and hopefully that supply chain will come back. But they are trying to make, conduct business through their websites. And so we've gotten these requests where customers, there's a shoe manufacturer, another one, where they say, hey, I just got 3 of these today. What happens? Meaning that the same customer that they ship to ordinarily, LTL and pallets full of product to a DC, are now saying, we want you to drop ship a single item to the customer that goes to our website. So the same vendor now has to support both the DC of the retailer as well as drop shipping individual packages to the customers. And they have to make it look like it came from the retailer's website. So as part of these mandates, the customers, the retailers say, hey, the form has to look just like this. Well, we've been building a library. We've got hundreds of them. But even if you have one, you get a request, and of course, it's got to be ASAP. This is not going to, turn around in 3 months. You don't have 90 days to put it together. The retailer is going to say, we want it now. You want to go live next week. Not a problem. We'll make up the format if it doesn't exist in this particular URL, the MarkMagic compliance formats. You just click there. It's got tickets, collates, shipping labels, and any of them are not available, we'll help you. We'll do it for you. It's a service that we offer for our customers.
Yeah, and Sean, that's been great for us. So we've been doing this for a number of years, and we have even today we got some new requirements from our customer, and they all we ask, like, hey, if we by chance don't have that form already created for you, for free up there on the compliance formats website, we just ask that if you send us a picture of what you want, or the actual compliance specs of it, and we are more than happy to add it. We'll build it for you, give it to you, export it so you can import it into your MarkMagic, and then of course we'll add it to our library for other folks to take advantage of. So it's kind of a win-win as the library grows. So don't be shy. Contact us at help@cyber.com or sales@cyber.com. We'll be more than happy to accommodate.
Very good. Phil, next. So
some of what Sheldon was just discussing, where you get these different mandates from different customers asking for different changes to formats. There's another feature within MarkMagic we call Print Transformer. Again, it's another link there on the right for handouts, which really helps you minimize the number of formats you have to maintain. So you may get a requirement, and it could be a label, it could be a form, it could be anything, right? But you may have a customer come to you that says, hey, when you ship to Cybra, it's got to look a different way. Like they're asking for, like, maybe they want their SKU numbers on the product instead of your SKU numbers, right? So what would you normally have to do? You'd have to copy that format, right? Make a copy, change the name, make the changes they want to it, right? On that new format. Then you'd have to make a program change that says, hey, you know, if we're shipping to company Cybra, then make sure you use these SKU numbers instead of those SKU numbers and all that stuff, right? So all this is a bunch of effort. So what Print Transformer does is it takes actually all that completely away, zero programming, and you actually make your one format. So your one, in this case, that invoice format on the left, you actually just make it smart by adding conditions to the format, which are as simple as testing some of the data. Hey, is the ship to Cybra? Oh, if it's Cybra, then, or if it's a ship to Auto ID Systems, then do this. Change the address up here, put the barcode over here on the right, all these changes down the bottom, and so on. And then, you know what? Don't even make it an invoice, make it a packing list and have the logos down at the bottom. So you can imagine, you could do pretty much anything that you want, adding all these different conditions to it. The other piece of Print Transformer is there's rule sets. So as we talk about, well, heck, how do I, you guys keep talking about how I can do PDF, and that's all great, but how do I activate PDF? How do I do it in my normal day-to-day operations? I'm already maybe printing this invoice. So within Print Transformer, that's another piece of the output side of it. So like you could say, you know what, if it's Cybra, or if it's this type of pack list, or has this data on it, or this part number, or this time of day, or anything that you want, we can test against that and say, then in that case, then create it as a PDF and email it over here or save it over here. So again, that's another piece of Print Transformer that involves zero programming, that makes it super powerful, and it can actually say, you know what, don't print it and PDF it instead. So it's kind of, it's all in one there. Anything you want to add there, Sheldon?
100%. It's a real, it's conditional printing on a record by record basis. Now, one of the things that, the challenge that we have nowadays is that if you're primarily shipping LTL pallets to your typical DC address, but now you're having individual orders getting injected, literally, that's the term, injected into your workflow, and the waves of picks that you do when you're pulling, pallets full of product, and all of a sudden you get this one order, or you get multiple orders that are these individual orders, and they get kind of interweaved into your workflow. Well, not a problem. On order by order, on a record by record basis, the rules and the conditions that Chuck described, they're checking the data. And if there's a rule that says, hey, if this customer is Macy's, for lack of a better term, then pull the Macy's logo and change the line here and all the design to match up with what their requirements are. And it does it on a record by record basis without forcing you to completely change your workflow. And that's a real key component.
That's a great point. Yep.
Bill, please, next slide. Okay, so so far we talked about the traditional implementations of MarkMagic, where you're looking for a labeling system, or you've been working with MarkMagic with your existing application software. But you know what? MarkMagic can be used on anything on your systems, whether it is an AS400 or an open systems or a Windows platform. And here's a case study. So one of our customers is Albany Medical Center. It's a big hospital, 450 beds, located right near the New York State Capitol. And they have literally zero IT staff. Very, very a few people who are obviously very involved with the patient systems, etc. And there's a pharmacy group that has to deliver medications 4 times a day, I believe, and that's the 450 beds. So there's quite a bit of processing that goes there. And the system that they have in place is what it was doing was printing dot matrix labels, for example, on IV bags and the various medication instructions, etc., for the nurses to take to the patients on the individual floors. So the pharmacists needed a way to put a barcode label on each of those medications so that they could scan the barcode and use a more modern patient system to check for complications or drug interactions. And so here they were stuck. They had these dot matrix labels. So we used the print transformer where we set it up and it watches for either a physical file or a record is added, a spool file, a record is added, a folder, a network file share. Any of those monitored targets, for lack of a better term, when a record appears there, it just kicks off a MarkMagic job, which then goes and prints. So all they had to do was turn off that dot matrix printer, turn it on, turn on the monitor, and the monitor watched it, picked it right off the spool file, and the MarkMagic job ran, that printed the zebra barcode labels, and they were off to the races. So if you have any application on any platform, you can define monitors, and as soon as the data, let's say it's an order coming in from a website, it could be literally anything, you can instantly enable a MarkMagic job that'll pick it up, that'll pick up the new data and process it without any programming whatsoever. Because I know it was done by a team of pharmacists and they know zero about programming.
Yep. And I love this tool too, because as the title suggests, there's zero programming required, and I'm not a programmer or developer. So you can really quickly and easily get something that you may have had running for the last 20 plus years, just to like an AS4 spool file or to your Windows text file, and you can add MarkMagic to that in just really a matter of minutes. I mean, even today, we still have folks that'll contact us that are printing data to pre-printed forms. So like a packing list, it's a pre-printed form, with their logo on them and the lines and boxes, and they're, sometimes if it's AS400 world, you may be stuck with that ugly courier font and all that. So in a matter of minutes, we can actually take that spool file and monitor that, or put a trigger on it, really is what the monitor does, and have a MarkMagic format print instead with nice pretty fonts and your own lines and boxes right onto plain paper. So you can replace those pre-printed to plain paper. And of course, it can also be PDF'd as well. So it all works together. So it's a great feature.
Including color.
Including color, yeah. I love color.
Yep. Color laser or color thermal without doing any programming, which is really nice. Phil, going to the next. So talking about what Chuck had brought up about the pre-printed forms. So those of you who are existing customers are familiar with our JMagic Designer, and it's a WYSIWYG design tool. Those who are not familiar with it, there's no charge. An unlimited number of people can use JMagic. It's a Windows executable, and you can, as you see, design lines, boxes, barcodes, rotate the fields, select multiple fields, move them as a group, etc. It's a very powerful tool, and there's no limit to the number of people who, again, if they have permission, can go in, create labels, and create new labels. But what happens if you're bringing in a pre-printed form that Chuck was just talking about? Phil, could you go to the next slide, please? So we have something called a template feature. All you do is you either scan it on a flatbed scanner or take your cell phone, snap a picture of the form, load it into JMagic, and you turn on the template feature, and it comes up in like a ghost, and then you can trace right on top of it the barcodes, the lines. You can do it for labels or for forms, and it's actually the tool that we use when our customers ask us to help them make some new forms. And it's really, it speeds the process along tremendously here.
Yeah, no ruler required, I'd like to say. So like back in the day, you'd get these specifications and you'd have to measure everything because they say they want it to be down, a half an inch from here, a quarter inch there. We just scan it in. So folks, don't feel bad for us. If you contact us, say, hey, can you make this label or form for us? Because this is the tool we use, and it takes us like no time at all. We take a picture of it and we just design right on top of it, and then it's native language and in the format, and send it off to you. So it's a super powerful tool.
Right, and you have it already. It's actually in your it's included in JMagic. So, right, it's going to come down. And I believe that wraps up the subset of things that you could do and how we really have. Oh no, this is a real important one.
This is good. This is good. So because I know, because I know what people are thinking. It's like, that's great, Chuck and Sheldon. You keep telling us how you can design all these things, how easy it is to design, and it's like, okay, that's fine. It's easy to design things. What about my data? Because they're probably looking at those compliance forms that were showing them earlier, the collates and all that, which they may not be using MarkMagic for, or something they have to do in the near future. And they're like, well, how do I get all that data on there? I mean, there's a lot of effort there, right? So not really. And that's what this SQL feature in MarkMagic allows, kind of takes care of all that. So what we're looking at here happens to be a Tesla format, right? Where I'm just pretending this data, most of this data is just coming from a WM package. In theory, honestly, you could have just one piece of data coming in. And if you just click there, Phil, we're going to show what the SQL feature allows. And I guess you could probably imagine what the SQL feature allows you to do. At print time, and this is coming in version 10, I'm about a month away from that, we can go and grab data from totally different platforms, totally different databases, running wherever they may be, and grab that data dynamically and merge it with your label or with your form and print it or PDF it. So in this example here, the data in orange, those dates, maybe your WM package doesn't know when these parts are going to be finished, but your project planning software running on a Microsoft SQL Server database does know. So you can use the PO number from this one label, this one record, and we'll look that data up dynamically, put it right there on the label. Also, like the information in blue, perhaps there's third-party information that you need to access at print time that your WM doesn't know about. So using the SQL feature, we can go and dynamically grab that from, in this case, an Oracle database by using the part number. And you're not limited to just one or two databases. You can actually use data from one database to go get data from another and another. You can chain out as far as you want. There's no limitations there. And we have, I'm not showing the interface here, but we have a simple interface, which is a point and click SQL, which again, I'm just ragging on myself. I don't know SQL, but I can point and click and create an SQL statement using our simple interface here in JMagic. And then there's another little button there for advanced where you can just type in or copy in your long SQL statements for you experts with joins and all that other stuff, and bring in the data. And we of course support repeating fields and so on. That's kind of what those components are down the road. So so just think about that. You could just be passing one piece of data to MarkMagic for a really long label or form with all kinds of fields. And again, it's stored on the format. The SQL information, it makes it smarter, can go look it up, print it, PDF it, and so on. So just keep that new feature in mind, coming very, very soon in version 10. So in fact, it's already done. We're just waiting on some other things to get version 10 out the door.
And now, so put on your thinking caps. Let's watch the light bulb go off. You realize that you can use this feature with the transformer and with the form weaver, and there's really no limit or limitation to the sorts of forms and labels that you can create, because you remember in MarkMagic we do a good job of separating the data and the data sources from the printing instructions and those sorts of designs. So we'll be bringing in this data from multiple databases, as Chuck mentioned, but then how each record looks, that's totally up to you. And there's a lot of tremendous power there to be able to really super powerful. Okay, now it is, I think, the last of the challenges that we've discussed, but I'm sure you've got some others. So let's go to the question and answer and see what the folks have to say.
Yeah, so we're at 2:32, or a little bit past, and we have over 10 questions, but I'm gonna just rapid fire 3 questions at you guys, if you don't mind. The first one from Samantha. You mentioned emailing PDFs of labels to be printed elsewhere. How can a Zebra printer print a PDF file?
That's a good question, because she knows a Zebra printer wants that ZPL language, which is typically the MarkMagic print stream that goes to it. So what we have found over the last 10 plus years is pretty much all the different thermal printers out there, including Zebra, obviously. There's a couple ways to handle it. One is the most common way, is you have a Windows print driver, which Zebra provides for free, and you open up the PDF of these thousands of labels, right, that MarkMagic created. So you got the PDF, you open it up in Adobe, and you go ahead and send it to the printer, and they come right out, and you can pick which labels you want to print from, to, and all that stuff like we're all used to with Adobe. And over the last number of years, well, few years really, these printers have come out, printer manufacturers have come out with direct PDF capability. Like I know Zebra happens to be one of them, where it's a separate option, but you can actually go PDF direct right to the printer itself, so you don't have to open it up into an Adobe or go through a PC. So, but if there's any other questions on that, please contact our help@cyber.com. We'll be more than happy to give you more information on it. Thank you.
Here's another one from Jerry for you two. Is there a limit on the number of PDFs your product can generate per day or month?
No.
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, so there's no limit. I mean, and we have customers doing tens of thousands, per day. I think some even do over 100,000 per day as far as the PDFs. And I don't know if maybe you was talking about like the licensing of MarkMagic. So just as far as that's concerned, there is no limit to the number of printers that you can use in MarkMagic, the number of users, the number of formats, or any of that. It's unlimited, and the number of PDFs that are created is totally unlimited with our license. So hopefully that answers the question.
All right, last one from Rose. We have pre-printed instructions on the back of all of our packing lists. How can MarkMagic handle this on a PDF?
That is a good question. Hold on a second here. So what you're talking about, Rose, is here's my Kohl's form, which I was showing you. They actually have a bunch of pre-printed information on the back, which has to do with how to return it, right? You can go to the store, you can mail it in and all that. So this information here, how do we handle that with the PDF? And we have tons of accounts that have had that challenge. It's not much of a challenge because you can handle it a couple different ways. If this form itself, and it doesn't have to be a collate like this, but it's only one page, you can just print, you have MarkMagic will actually switch, you can switch formats. So the second one will be your terms and conditions or your instructions. That's a very common way. So it's a 2-page document. Another one is to actually send the instructions as a separate PDF along with the actual packing list, and you can call it terms and conditions. Those are the 2 most common ways we see that handled. But if you have any other questions on that, if I didn't answer your question, please contact us. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, another way you can do it is with FormWeaver. If you need to change what's on the back.
Yeah, right. That's what I was, yeah, exactly. And you use Print Transformer or FormWeaver to change that back. And it's never a backside when it's PDF. It's always like another page. So we've had some accounts where they print like 5 of these pages, and like it ends up being 10 because it goes one and then one of these, it goes back and forth. We have a feature where we say just end. So it'll print the 5 of the actual packing lists, and then the 6th one where we have a special one called Star, and it'll totally switch formats, and it'll add the instructions as the 6th page of that one PDF. So you can keep them all together as one PDF, or you can burst them apart into separate ones. So there's lots of options there. That's a good question. Probably out of time now.
Yeah, I think so. We have a handful more questions, but we'll handle those offline. We know your time is very valuable. So on behalf of Chuck and Sheldon and everyone here at Cyber, thanks so much for watching. Like I said at the start of this, we'll be sending you another email with the recording of this webinar and all the resources that we mentioned today in the webinar. So once again, thanks for attending. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
So long.
Bye.
Bye.